Hello, bosses, and welcome back for another one of our Fierce Fall webinars. This time, we're focusing on expanding your boss toolkit by uncovering how the right headshots can help build your brand. Hi, everybody. I'm Emilie, the founder and CEO of Bossed Up, and I'm so excited to introduce to you today Victoria Ruan. Now, part of the Fierce Fall Challenge, before we dive too deeply into that, is that we are embarking on a 10-week journey together. We are halfway through it, meaning that there are 5 weeks left before Thanksgiving. And so many of us on the bossedup.org community throughout Facebook and social media, Instagram and Twitter have been sharing what our Fierce Fall goal is, meaning what is that one remaining ambition that's just for us that we want to make time for and be concerted about planning around before the holidays strike and our lives get taken over with other stuff. So I've been so inspired and encouraged by this community by seeing everybody who signed up for the free high impact, high volume campaign that comes at you at bossedup.org/fiercefall. So right now, to get us started, I'm loving seeing everyone join us from all over the country. Weigh in today's chat bar by telling us what your Fierce Fall goal is. And if you haven't joined the campaign, that's okay. It's never too late to get started. Make the most of these next 5 weeks together. By sharing what it is that you're striving towards this season. You're probably here today because that might be launching your side hustle or getting that new job or working on your executive presence to land that promotion. Whatever it is, let us know. Get us started in the chat bar right now so that we can help each other by creating a space right here, right now for today's lunch hour where we can help one another. That's what bosses do. That's what Bossed Up is all about, helping you to craft a happy, healthy, and sustainable career path. Now, a couple of things coming up I just want to make note of. Obviously, you know that the Fierce Fall campaign has had many different webinars thus far. Each week we have a VIP guest and sometimes a boss toolkit webinar like this one that focuses on the skills you need to be a boss in your life. Now, upcoming events include Power Hour tomorrow evening here in Washington, D.C. It's our free monthly Power Hour, which is like a happy hour with purpose, where we make sure that you leave with a connection that can help you get bossed up. We've teamed up with the women from Women Get It Done, a national organization. You'll hear more about them. We have 122 people registered. So get over to the website, bossedup.org. Find us on Facebook. We just promoted this event. It's free. It's in DuPont Circle. It's going to be awesome, and I would love to see you there tomorrow. Next week, tune back in around this same time for our next Fierce Fall webinar, Boss Toolkit series about how to hone your personal story for the job search. And of course, as always, we have our flagship Bossed Up Bootcamp training program always on the horizon. Our next one is coming up the very first weekend of December here in Washington, D.C. We already have about 20 people who've applied, so it's filling up quickly. It's actually one of the most popular ones of the year. Is this time to close out 2015 with the tools you need to navigate career transition like a boss. So if you're interested in applying to bootcamp or learning more about it, ask questions of me today or head on over to bossedup.org/bootcamp and see what that program is all about, because that's what got Bossed Up started after all, and that is how so many of us have found this community and this way of living to be so productive and helpful for crafting a career and a life that we love. Now today, I'm thrilled to introduce you to Victoria Ruan, who you can tweet along with at V_RU, Viru, or at bossedup.org and use that hashtag #FierceFall throughout today's conversation. Victoria is a friend of mine and someone I admire because not only is she a super talented photographer who's taken my headshots, who I've entrusted with my brand, and who we featured as a Bossed Up Bootcamp headshots photographer. Side note, every time you come to Bossed Up Bootcamp, or everyone who comes to Bossed Up Bootcamp leaves not just with training, but with tangible goodies like a professionally done headshot to make sure that you can leverage that to navigate career transition as you move forward. And I'm so excited for you to meet Victoria because she has a really incredible story. Like me, Victoria worked in politics for a while. We actually worked in the same organization many, many moons ago. And we both sort of burnt out, right? And don't let me speak for you, Victoria. I know you're going to share more of this story in a minute, but I've been so encouraged to see her on her path to entrepreneurship as a woman who started her own business here, who is so talented in so many ways and is sharing some of her time and talents with us today. So just so you know, this is a woman who is fierce in navigating career transition on her own right, and who I've entrusted with my headshots and a lot of my brand because she's a total boss behind the lens. So I'm so excited for her to sort of debunk some myths today about headshots, help us understand how they can help us, and how the hell we go about navigating taking a headshot, because it's actually more complicated. when you get in front of the camera, you're like, oh shoot, I wish I had thought this through a little bit more. So Victoria, you can go ahead and turn on your camera, and I'm going to hand it on over to you. Thank you so much for spending some time with us today.
Thank you. Hi, bosses. Thanks for that introduction, Emily. So just a little bit about me before I get into the slides. Yeah, as she said, I also navigated a career transition out of a career that wasn't meeting the objectives that I think I wanted. I first had to really define what that was. And I think for me, it was I wanted to impact people on an individual level, and I wanted to deliver a tangible good. And I had a creative side, and I picked up photography as a hobby and really started to develop it as a craft, and found that I was drawn to photographing people and telling their stories, and that's really how I fell into and pursued and am pursuing a career as a portrait photographer. So I've been in my profession for just over 4 years. And I love being a photographer, especially working with portraiture, because I get to collaborate with my clients and just deliver a product that I think helps them tell their story. I really enjoy the interaction because I get to encourage and coach and empower people in front of the camera, and just have fun with them, whether it's, they're on their wedding day, or it's a headshot where they're getting ready for a new transition in their life. So I'm really excited to speak with you guys today, give you a couple tips. I hope you can take away some tangible things and some things you can practice. If there's anything specific I don't cover, feel free to ask questions at the end. Do my best to answer them. So first, the first thing I want to talk about is, what is a headshot? You hear this term thrown around a lot. So just a little bit of a background on the history of that, at least what I've sort of found and know, is traditionally there are two kinds. One is the newspaper headshot. So you open up the New York Times and you look at the obituary section or the wedding section, or the Wall Street Journal. There is a tight crop on the face. And so newspapers have a standard for showing somebody's face. That's one headshot. The other traditional kind is actor headshot. It's a little more creative. It's still tight on the face, but it could be for models and actors, it could be full body. It could be, waist up. There's a variation. Both of them are considered portraits, which is a wider term. And a key element of the portrait is that it is posed and intended to show the person as they would like to be seen. So you as the person getting your headshot done, your portrait done, you have a lot to say in how you want this to go. And you should totally own that and come into that with that attitude. You should feel, and I hope that I give you some confidence in being able to say, or when you're looking for a photographer, when you're in front of the camera, to, take initiative and be like, no, I want this done differently, or I want to look this way. So that's the background information on the headshot, and I think it'll play out how this can look different for you, depending on what you want your brand to be, depending on how you want to communicate, what message you want to communicate in your image when people Google your name or on your Facebook page or what have you. And again, this comes into play with different contexts. So obviously, if you're on a panel, you may want a different type of headshot than if you are putting a photo on your website, etc. So what makes a good portrait of you? That is the next question that I'm going to answer. Really, if you think about it, I think that hopefully I sort of gave you a hint, but what makes a good portrait is not necessarily specifically how you stand or the look on your face or what you wear or even if you have makeup on, it's you. You are the person, again, who's running the show, who's directing, who is responsible for how you want to be perceived, with your image. And of course, it's a team effort. And so the other key factor in a good portrait is a professional photographer. And I say that because I think a lot of people think, oh, I can just like take this with my phone. I can like put my camera on timer. It really does take two. And I would encourage you to think of a professional photographer as a coach and as an instructor. I think a lot of people that come to me tell me, I'm so unphotogenic. I feel so awkward in front of the camera. And they say it as if, apologetically. And I think I respond to them and I say, that is a completely natural feeling, because the only people that feel comfortable in front of a camera are models and actors because it's their job. They've actually had to learn how to pose in front of the camera. So I say, you know what, that's why you come to me, or that's why you hire a professional, because they are coaching you and instructing you and giving you confidence, and you're working on this together to get the final image that you want. So it's a two-part equation there. What you're bringing in front of the camera, and the person behind the camera. That's what makes a good portrait or headshot. So how do you find, actually before you find a photographer, or when you're in the process of finding a photographer, I would encourage you to start with asking yourself questions about what kind of headshot portrait that you want. So the first question I would probably ask is like, where are you going to use the images? If it's for a specific panel coming up that you're going to have to speak on, or if you just want a general one that you can put in different places, if you want a couple different looks, those are all things you want to think through, because it'll help you find the right photographer for you. It'll help you figure out how much you want to invest right now, because it may be like a last minute thing, and you're like, oh my gosh, I really need a headshot just for this one thing. Or you could be like, you know what, I really want to invest in like a full package to have a range of images that I can use throughout the year if things come up. It really depends on where you are right now, what your objective is. So ask yourself that question, really think about that, and write those things down. The other question I would ask yourself is, what is the message I want my image to communicate, and what style is the best fit for my branding and messaging? I think I would encourage you to really think about that before searching for your photographer, because it will help you narrow in on the type of photographer and the style, the aesthetic that photographers have. So I put 3 images here as an example. These are 3 clients of mine. And they all, to me, have had very different, they're in different professions, first of all. And so they had very, different uses for the images. We'll start with Ellen on my left, in the pink shirt. She's an author, and she wanted a photo for her book jacket. So, we wanted something that was going to be a tighter crop, and she's someone that is writing fiction books. So, we wanted something warm and the type of thing you see on the book jacket cover. So, and then there's Sarah, who works for an association here in DC. This was just for her general LinkedIn page, and also she speaks a lot of panels. So this was something that she's like, specifically, I want to use this on panel photos. I want something more professional. So she had the jacket on, etc. And then there's Amanda. She is a small business owner. So, her audience is very different. I think, there are different messages that they are communicating. Their audiences are different. So you really want to think about it. You want to think about who your audience is, specific to where you're using it, right? Facebook, on social media, or, you know, in maybe it's a smaller audience within like your professional world, etc. Maybe it's like potential clients, like maybe Amanda is really, that's her audience. So you can see how we crafted sort of different environments, different lighting, different outfits for each of these individual needs. So that's a really important question to think about too. What is the style of you? What is your brand? And I think you should feel comfortable bringing those thoughts to your photographer when you're looking for a photographer, to your potential photographer, to get feedback and see what they think and have a dialogue about it. I think that's a really important step, as opposed to just like frantically Googling, oh my gosh, headshot photographer, I just need a photographer right now. I think a little thought goes a long way in picking the right photographer. And then the other question that I think you should think about is, what am I most worried about when being photographed? It's a little bit of a soul-searching, dig deep down question, but we all have insecurities, we all have little things that we don't like about ourselves, and I think this question is like very important because a photographer needs to know, what is it that do you have a side you prefer? Is there something you're like more, you know, sensitive about in terms of pictures? You know, a lot of people say, I don't like my arms. I don't like how I smile. I have this chin thing. You know, that's an important thing to know. And for your photographer to know, it's an important thing because they will then pose you and instruct you and coach you in a way where, you know, you're not, where you feel more comfortable. And I just think it's important to like know that about yourself, and be able to communicate that. So, that because it is a very vulnerable space being in front of the camera. So if you know the things that are, you know, if you know the things that you are maybe not so confident about on you, and if you communicate that to your photographer, I think that'll go a long way in making the experience a lot more fun and comfortable for you. So after you've figured all those things out and wrote some notes down, you can start searching for your photographer. I think in today's world, you know, with social media and Facebook, you could Google somebody. People still tend to find me through referrals. Thank you, Emilie. Yeah, people still tend to find me referrals. So ask a friend. If you're seeing people on your Facebook feed or LinkedIn and you like one of their photos, send them a ping, send them a message, ask them who they use. That's a great first start. If you know that you want something a little less traditional than maybe the corporate headshot, you know, try Googling different terms like lifestyle photography, or that's actually a good term to Google for, lifestyle photographer, because they may have a different side of the portfolio that might fit your brand more. But I think that knowing all those things that we talked about before is an important first step in your search. So part of your search too will probably be narrowed by price. And I will say that pricing differs in every region because cost of doing business is just different in every region. It's probably a little less expensive in Georgia or Pennsylvania than it is in Washington, D.C. But typically pricing varies and depends on the length of the session. Maybe they have a standard length, you know, a portrait session with me, for example, is usually an hour. And I give them up to 2 looks and 2 locations, indoor or outdoor. And I give them all of the edited images and retouch the best ones that they want. I will retouch those images. So that's like an example of a package that I do. But pricing will depend on how many images you need, how many looks you want. If you're booking a photographer for your organization, you may be able to get a reduced rate per person, right? Because that's like a full day job for them, and they're going to get more money overall. So think about that too. Possibly if they may be open to doing headshots for like, if you can get 6 people together, 6 of your friends, if it's not an organization that you're part of, or I'm sorry, if it's not like a job that you're part of, if it's just like a club or something like that, maybe they would be willing to do that. And then think about where the session will take place. A lot of photographers, those that cost a little more, have their own studio. And that could be easier for you to go to. Other photographers like me, I don't have a set studio right now. I work a lot in my home, or I take my equipment, including this backdrop right here, to my client's home. So I will travel to them. And I just find like in DC, that's a little more convenient for people. I think being at their home puts them at ease. It's easier to like help them pick out outfits. So consider where the session will take place. That is a factor in pricing. And then the turnaround time. If you need it like immediately, it may cost a little more. If you can wait, their standard turnaround time may cost a little less. So figure out how much you want to spend. But I definitely am a firm believer in investing in this. And you may even be able to find like a college student or something, or someone on Craigslist. But I would really encourage you to invest something. Set a budget, invest something, because you're investing in these people. Again, it's a team effort. And I've got a question here. What are some sample costs, high end versus low end? Okay, so I can only speak for the DC area, right? And it's very different from region. Because, for example, in New York City, you probably have a lot of actors and models looking for headshots. So on the high end, this guy, Peter Hurley in New York City, charges like $1,200, which is like insane, right? But his market is really actors and models. And actors and models really need those, headshots when they go to casting calls. So that is his niche. I think on the low end, I know that here in DC, I charge $300 for an hour session. And then some people charge a little bit more than me. And then on the low end, I think, that is a larger discussion amongst the photographer community. But I think the low end should be, if it's somebody who's looking for experience, enough to cover their costs of whatever you decide. And, because you are investing in them. So again, that's going to really differ place to place. But there is a huge range there. Like, I charge $300 an hour, and Peter Hurley in New York City charges $1,200 for like 30 minutes. So I think that price should be not like I know like it's hard to say that I don't think it should be the deciding factor. I think you should first start with, a strong portfolio and people who maybe you have a good referral from, and then maybe get a range of prices within the aesthetic that you want, and then make your selection from there. That's how I would navigate that.
Yeah. Can you tell me more about, I don't know if you're going to get to this, so forgive me for interrupting here, but thinking about price, it's kind of hard to put a number on really great photos versus like photos that are basically a gamble. So when I look at people's portfolios, which to me is like the biggest way to go about shopping around photographers, do you find that people's portfolios really dictate price? Because I find the talent ranges really dramatically, and basically what you're paying for is the insurance of having them turn out great, of like knowing that it's going to work out.
This is why I strongly advise you have a conversation with them, have a consultation. I'm the type of person who likes to call people over the phone. I like to hear somebody's voice, to kind of figure out, what they're about. And so what I would say is portfolio is one. That's like one point where you're like, ooh, I love this image. I love what the person did there. And then two is like email them, set up a time to talk on the phone, and come with your research. Come with, this is what I want to do. This is what I'm thinking. You know, can you give me some feedback, or like, is this doable for you? And, you know, you'll get, I think with you're interviewing them in that sense. So you're kind of giving them, when you come with that information, you're saying like, this is the look I'm going for. This is my background. This is kind of how I want the images to be. They've got to come back to you with a proposal or ideas. And I think, you know, you guys are savvy enough to identify if they're blowing smoke up your ass, if they're like, yeah, I can do that, or if they're really being thoughtful about the images. And you can also ask for, if you're not getting a referral and you're just going blind off of people's portfolio, again, contacting them and ask for a referral from them. So be like, can I contact one of your prior clients and ask about how it was to work with them? Because, you know, I think everyone's like, oh, anyone can take a good photo. It's not just about the photo. It's about the experience. Again, it's a very vulnerable experience being in front of the camera. So you want to make sure you trust the photographer. And I think what you are paying for is the trust in that this photographer and you are going to work well together. So I would definitely think about it like that. It is a working relationship together. So I hope that's helpful, and we can talk about that a little bit more. I just want to go over a couple more things and get to the posing techniques as well, because I think those are going to be, you guys are going to really like those, hopefully. Okay, so portfolio. So I said, you know, when viewing a photographer's portfolio, take a note of the images you're drawn to and ask the photographer about those images. How did you get that image? Oh, what's the story behind this photo? And have, you know, give feedback. I really love this photo because, you know, it's really a dialogue that you want to have to make sure that you are on the same page, because you are creating this image together. And Maggie, I will get to that at the end, so please remind me with that. Maggie asked, do you have any tips for insight for selecting shooting locations? I would, again, I think if that conversation is really important with you and your photographer, given what type of message you want to put out or what you're trying to communicate. But I can go into more specifics at the end. Okay, so how to prep for your session. There are a couple tips here. I will say that the higher priced portrait photographers, maybe who have their own studio, will also have someone to do makeup. It could be. There are a lot of benefits to scheduling appointments to get your makeup done and your hair done, or getting a friend or someone to help you with that, to bring a buddy along. You definitely, I think makeup and hair can go a long way so that you get it right in camera, as opposed to maybe having to pay additional for retouching later. So consider that. Consider how, you know, I generally would think your makeup should be, again, part of your look, and part of how you want it. So if you're used to being very natural, just go with very minimal. If you want to be a little more, you know, if you have a standard makeup for the level of professionalism, then go with that. Select a few outfits. Your photographer can help you narrow down the best options, and then also like use your friends to help you, tell you what looks great, what doesn't look great. There's a lot of information you can Google out there on, you know, what to wear, what not to wear. I wouldn't like take those, like, I would just sort of go with what you feel comfortable in. what you feel great in, pick a couple options, and then, have your photographer help you from there. Because it really all depends too on the background and whether it's clean and wide or if it's outside. So just pick a couple of options to be able to narrow down. Stretch, practice good posture. So one tip I usually tell people is like before they, get going, just relax, stretch, pretend that there's a string pulling the top of your head so that it really elongates your neck, and you just feel tall and you feel lean and you feel good. So good posture is everything. Another way to prep is looking through catalogs or magazines. J. Crew is a favorite of mine. Or any magazine, I look for poses that are really interesting, expressions that are interesting, and just really study that and practice it yourself and see what works for you. And that's the next one, which is play with different looks and expressions in front of the mirror. I believe that your eyes and your eyebrows and your mouth are what provide the most expressions on your face. And that's why no one can take like the same picture, because you have different eyes and you have a different mouth and you have different eyebrows. And all those expressions are uniquely your own. So, find your tricks to get your expressions just right. It could be talking, it could be saying a word, like watermelon, or it could be, some people may like a more serious look and have a closed mouth smile. Some people want to look jovial all the time and look like they're laughing, having a great time. So, play up your great features that you love about yourself. Practice in the mirror. I was just thinking about how my niece is 5, and sometimes I'll catch her talking to herself in the mirror. And I was thinking, I used to do that all the time. It's sort of the self-exploration of what do I look like? And it's a really self-conscious thing, but it can be a very good thing. So kind of tap into that, your younger self of really exploring, your expressions and how you want to get your expressions. Sorry. Okay. And the other thing you can practice in your mirror is different stances. So I'm going to actually practice, I don't know if you can see me, but people usually, when they come to me and they're in front of the camera, they're nervous, they just kind of stand there nervously like this, and their feet are kind of apart. And I just would practice standing how you would at a mixer, or how would you stand naturally? Let your weight shift naturally, bring your hands to a comfortable place, whether it's in your pockets, just kind of practice and see how you would like to, what looks good. Typically people, when you're photographed, you typically want to do a side and maybe not so much head on, right? But it's different, a little bit different for everybody. So stand in front of the mirror, practice. But I think the main things you can practice are shifting your weight and where your hands are and what looks comfortable. Do you want to be seated? Do you want to be standing? Those are things to think about. Drink plenty of water. Take care of your skin. That is the best way to get healthy skin and have to wear minimal makeup. And then relax and get some rest. It's really important to, be well rested, I think, and not stressed, because when you're stressed, you can see it in your eyes. So that's key. Posing tips and tricks. So here are some more tangible tips and tricks that you can use. I love this one over here, the peach one. I usually tell people to do the J. Crew pose, which is a cross ankle, crossing your hands in your pockets. So I usually say, hey, do the J. Crew pose. When I say J. Crew, what do you think? And it's typically a pose like that. But here's some more tangible tips that may help. If you have long hair, it is usually better to place the hair over one shoulder instead of having it lay like this, right? Because if it lays on your shoulders and it's long, it's flipping out here. So you want it to look neat. You really want to showcase your face. You don't want your hair to be distracting, right? The other option is to tie it up. That's great. It's a little more polished and it's a different look, but it can really, showcase different things. So again, another good reason to do a hair consultation or get your hair done, because the hairstylist can help you figure that out. But if you have long hair generally, and again, if you're at an event and people are snapping photos, this is a good thing to remember too. Let's just bring your hair to one side. That's, one side or the other. So the next one is a really one that I use all the time. It's called the turtle move or turtling. And the idea is that you really want to create a strong jawline. And any of you who are afraid of the double chin and you want to minimize that, one way to do that is to bring your forehead forward like a turtle. It feels like you're a turtle coming out of your shell. But what it does is it brings your face out, your chin down, and your ears forward. And in photography, it's all about, planes. So you're really bringing your face out to be in the same plane as your body. So it makes everything look more proportioned. And it gives you a really strong jawline. It kind of minimizes anything down here. So again, it's this stand up nice and tall and just bring your forehead out a little bit. Just like that. See the other side? So, okay, turtling. Think of the turtle. Be a little bit of a turtle. And throughout all this, a lot of this is trial and error. So your photographer is going to be like, wait, stop, freeze, don't move. And you'll move just enough. They'll be like, that's perfect. So a lot of it is trial and error. This next one's good too. I like to say to my clients, say the word smile. Because when you say the word smile, your tongue hits the roof of your mouth. And it's a very natural smile. It's not you don't get these big, this big smile like this. It doesn't look very forced. Your face doesn't look so tense. So the other way you can do it is press your tongue on the roof of your mouth while smiling. You can try it right now. Right? This is my cheese smile, and this is my smile. It's a very subtle difference, but I think you'd be amazed when you practice in the mirror how that can work, for you. Smile, or just push your tongue on the roof of your mouth while you're smiling, just like that. So that's a really great tip that you can take with you wherever you go. If seated, whenever you're sitting, always cross your ankles. I know we want to cross our legs like this, but it really looks better if you cross your ankles because of your posture. If you're standing, and if you're getting photographed head on, crossing your ankles is a really great way to go. It shifts your weight naturally. Right, so you can do that. This is another tip. This is great. Rest your hands on your hips. You're creating a visual here where you're really slimming yourself down that way. Or I think really what you want to be aware of is not bringing your hands, your arms, to really just giving some space between your arms and your torso. So you really want to maybe rest your fingertips on your pants leg right here, just your fingertips. So you just leave a little bit of room, or you can bring your hands on your hips so that there's space here. But if you really want to avoid your arms touching your torso like this. So hands on your hips, waist, hands pocket, or your fingertips on here. So just a comfortable place to rest your hands that also gives a little bit of room here between your arm and your torso. It's a visual thing. And then the last tip I have is when you're actually being photographed and you have to do an hour or 30 minutes or something, when your face feels tired, just shake it out. Just shake it out. It'll make you laugh, which is great because that's endorphin. And you can also do some deep breathing. So what I like to tell people when I feel like their face is getting tired and they're getting tense, I ask them to stop and inhale for 3 seconds. And then exhale. And then I get them to open their eyes. And then at that point, I get a pretty natural look from them, a little less tense. So that's something, just always keep breathing. If you need a break, take a break, shake it out. And again, they're going to coach you through the process. It's a 2-person job. So the most important thing to remember is to not be afraid to be silly, goofy, bust a move, laugh at yourself. You're going to have some outtakes. Your like eyes are going to be like half closed. You're like have one where you're laughing, and like you're going to have some, ones you're like, oh my gosh, I don't want that photo to see the light of day. But it's fun. Have fun with it. Try not to, take yourself too seriously. And like, this is a great example. I took photos of Emilie and I was like, just, have fun with it. And so she's having fun with it. And it's one of my favorite images. It's a great outtake, I think. Some of the best photos I've ever taken are outtakes where people are willing to be silly and laugh at themselves. So again, a lot of posing is trial and error. So relax and be confident and have fun with it. Okay, so now you can ask me any questions if you want me to expound on any of those tips. Hopefully, I'm sorry, guys. This is like not my forte presentations. I don't get to talk about this stuff very much. So
this is wonderful.
It's hard to understand.
No.
Ask, specifics. I'm happy to clarify.
Bravo. This was really, really great. I just want to, while questions are coming in, which I encourage you, bosses, to write in your questions now. I just want to sort of reiterate or underline some of the things that you said. And also just note that we had a personal branding expert on this webinar series a couple weeks ago. So if you go to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/bossedup.org, you will see Emilie de la Cruz did something on personal branding. And in there, she starts to talk about, your headshot should be the same or consistent throughout your online properties. And she goes into more details. So if you're on today wondering like, oh, well, I wanted to learn more about my personal brand, those resources are out there. What I love is you made this so clear. And this is a lesson that we learned working together, is that like, the onus is on you as the subject. Like when you are going in to get your headshots done, make sure you make it worth your while, because it is an investment. You want to do your homework like you just laid out for us. Like you want to go in prepared to be the director and say, here's the brand I'm going with, or here's what I'm thinking of. So it definitely requires a little bit of pre-work and teamwork in real time. And a good photographer like you, Victoria, is going to be that coach that we all need. So I think it's just such an important point to like recognize that don't just hire a photographer and think that's the end of the day. Like you got to do your homework. Otherwise it's just a recipe for being unhappy with the outcomes. Cause it definitely, it takes two, like what you're saying.
Right.
And the other thing I want to underline is that this has to be a forgiving process, because I find we write a weekly feature, the Fierce Friday feature, about incredible women who've transformed their lives and are totally inspiring, who happen to have gone to Bossed Up Boot Camp. And every week we ask for a headshot, and of course they all have headshots from Bossed Up Boot Camp. But it's kind of an interesting challenge when people see their own flaws 10 times more than anyone else does. So just like, we really have to go into this with a healthy sense of self-worth, and surrounding yourself with that buddy or having a friend on hand who can help remind you that you're fucking awesome, right? That like whatever you're wearing makes you feel that way, how you look that day should make you feel that way, and yes, your photographer should make you feel that way. And actually there's a great question that just came in on this very subject matter. So Maybelline from Orlando, hey, hello Floridians. Would you bring a friend to go with you during your session? And if so, Victoria, what is that friend's real job there? Because I feel like they need some prep.
I think that could be a great idea, because I think bringing moral support is a great idea, especially if you are someone who is deathly afraid of being in front of the camera. I think you want to talk it over with your photographer. Make sure that they're okay with it. I think that their job then would be to just talk to you. Like, at the dentist, I hate the dentist. Like, I hate the dentist. And when I was a kid, I would want my mom to just hold my hand and like chat, and or the whoever's assisting the dentist, the nice nurse that I loved because she was the good cop and the dentist was the bad. Like, that lady would like talk to me and ask me questions. So I think that's really their role, to make you laugh. And I think having a friend there could go a long way in getting some great shots of you, some more natural and candid shots. I think from a photographer's perspective, I just want to make sure they weren't a distraction though to the objective, which is like, and it's you and the photographer that are really driving the train and directing how the shoot's going. So
yeah, and just sharing your objectives with everybody at the outset. So important, because what if your best friend has a totally different vision for you?
Yeah.
You're like, no.
She's on board, on the same page, and on your team. So
this is great.
Yeah.
We have another question in here from Tiffany from New York. What are your thoughts on photo studios such as Sears or the Picture People for someone who is on a tight budget?
I have not used those, so I can't say. I don't have an experience with them, but I think if that you could have a good experience with that. I think that picture studios are probably making a comeback. I should probably think about it as a business as a business opportunity. I don't think they're bad, but I think again, go in and figure out if you're going to be happy with it, because that's still money that you're spending. So maybe you go to one in your town and there's a really good photographer who's putting themselves through school, who's doing that. Great. You know what I mean? Maybe you can, it's worth going in for a consultation.
Totally.
So as long, I think it's good if the person there at Picture People or Sears takes their craft seriously and knows what they're doing.
The other thing, I think, just going back to word of mouth, I found to be so powerful. And this depends, like, you have to be really diligent about seeking these, asking these questions and seeking these resources out. But if you can find someone who's totally new to the game, but is talented, I mean, Tiffany, that's a way to get, some serious discounts, but of course you run the risk of them being totally green and just frankly not professional, right? They're not professionals. So the coaching isn't there usually, and the experience is totally different. But I've definitely gone that route in the past, and then expect your photo to be used as promotion too. So like, that's always something like people need to get experience under their belt when they're just starting out, but you definitely know the difference between a seasoned professional and a noob.
And I forgot about bartering. I mean,
true.
You can barter. Like, I am not social media savvy.
Right.
I mean, I could be, but I'm spending a lot of my time taking photos and editing and dealing with clients. So to me, something really valuable would be a barter like that. Or, I just broke my coffee table and need one. I would barter worker or, a coffee table. So think about what you could offer.
Yeah. That's a good point.
Especially if you're approaching somebody who is just starting. And I would say that if you're doing that, don't make the assumption that they're just starting.
Right.
I would, really give them a chance to again, pitching yourself. So they want to work with you and they're willing to make it work. That, I think that is the way to really initiate that. I would never, I don't think I would make the assumption, because everyone is looking for, these people are looking to do their craft the best way.
Yeah, and that is worth a lot.
If they were going to do it for the money, just for the money, they wouldn't do it. I'll tell you that right now. So,
that's awesome. Well, I'm certainly glad that you are making this your craft. This is awesome. And it is worth a lot. So we have to value the work and effort that we put in and that we expect from others.
Yeah. So. And it's a relationship. So hopefully this isn't the last time you'll use this person. You're investing you're investing in the local economy.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of pros to this investment. But yeah, I think it really starts with you investing in this for yourself.
Yeah. And I think it's amazing because what we've seen in the growth of small businesses, especially amongst female entrepreneurs, is that all business is personal now, right? Like it's all about your personal brand and it's all about how you package yourself. And so it makes sense that photographers are a really important piece of that puzzle. And, you know, what's funny is that like you used to be able to get 10 years out of a headshot and now it's like 10 months out of a headshot. So it's sort of
didn't wear the same outfit in
right.
Instagram photos in a row.
Yeah. So it's like, you know, the media landscape is changing. We're all creators and our brands are either something we create or something that's created for us by default. So
I wanted to go back to the person who talked about shooting locations.
Excellent. Yes.
So part of the portfolio thing, I think if you're drawn to the photographer's portfolio that does more dramatic lighting, then you won't want to go with somebody who's primarily a natural light photographer and uses like natural light and these more. If you want something that shows nature and is more outdoors, then you'll want to look for people who have natural light in their portfolio or talk about really like using natural light. So photographers put out their portfolio, they're putting out the images that they want to shoot and that they want to do more of.
Right.
So that's a great guide. So that question in terms of picking a location, actually a personal story with me and Emilie. So, you know, location was very important because she was looking at images that she wanted and they were very urban. They were taken in New York, I think, but they were, you know, urban jungle. And it's like, the message was like in the craze of this, like, you know, like in this crazy city, like you need someone else.
Yeah. Burnout is real, right? Burnout happens in the city. So
yeah. We picked, you know, we like in that photo, we picked a place that looked urban in DC, that representation. So I think part of picking a location has to do a lot with, again, your brand, your messaging. And that's something that photographer, like if you don't need to know right away where you want to take the photo but you need to at least have a little bit of sense and then have that dialogue so the photographer can be more, gives the opportunity for them to be creative and be a consultant on like, take it, or they may know the perfect place. Good photographers always scouting locations.
Well, let me brag on Victoria's behalf here for a second because you're being very coy about this story, but I think it's actually a perfect example of I and Bossed Up like to teach what I learned the hard way, which happens to be about burnout primarily, but today it's about headshots. And when we first scheduled our first shoot most recently, we were in DC, but we happened to be in a neighborhood that looked like white picket fence, you know, the National Zoo was around the corner, and the photos came out a little less grungy and real than I wanted them to be. And so Victoria knew this perfect alley with the perfect amount of graffiti with like a much more brand aligned look. So then when we counseled each other really on, okay, well, here's the first drafts. These ones came out great. These ones look way too lush and green and full of life. Then we could say, you know, I don't like these and here's why. And you were like, I know just the spot. So that's when the value of a great photographer becomes crystal clear, because it's not every person that you work with that can really be your co-strategist on that level.
And a note on if you don't like the photos, so you may want to talk to your photographer beforehand about what is their policy on reshoots.
Yes.
Like they may charge you a little bit additional, or, you know, so that's something to discuss beforehand as well.
Yeah. Because you can't plan for everything. This is awesome. Well, fantastic. Well, it's been an hour, so I'm going to be respectful of everyone's time and yours, especially Victoria. I appreciate so much of these tips. I know we were all making faces in our webcams while you were talking, like doing the turtle. So thank you for playing along with us and for sharing so many great insights that we can all put into practice right away. And bosses, we will, as always, continue this conversation. I don't know if there's one more slide you want to advance, Victoria, with contact info or no?
Oh, right. Yeah.
I'm looking down. I'm thinking, wait a minute.
This
conversation.
Instagram. That is like my main jam right now. I also have a Facebook page. I have a website, and you can email me. But like Instagram is where I really am living right now.
Where's that?
I need to take I definitely need to watch one of these on like how to stream.
Well, we have all of that at Boston. Not to worry. We'll take good care of you. But thank you so much for sharing this really unique presentation. And this conversation will continue on social media. We'll be tweeting out at Victoria. I'll be writing a summarizing blog post, and you'll all be hearing a lot more from us real soon.
All right. Thanks, Boston. Have a great day.